Hello and welcome to this TUC Wales webinar on communication skills. My name is David Pardey of the Professional Development Centre, and in this short session I want to look at how we communicate with people face to face, and then consider some of the barriers to communication that we face when we're no longer able to do that, when we have to rely upon technology to intermediate between us, as it's called, that is, to as a vehicle through which to have a conversation. I want to start by introducing a very simple model of communication, which was developed by two American telecommunications engineers, and which helps us to think about the process of communication. Communication cycle starts with the idea of two people, one of whom, the sender, has something they want to communicate to the other, the receiver. And to do this, they use a channel. In this case, it's going to be face-to-face communication, but email, video conferencing, telephone are all channels of communication as well. The sender starts with an idea they've got in their head, which they want to communicate, and they encode it into words which convey the message. But in the process, they also use their tone of voice, the emphasis they place upon words. For example, I can say, "I'm sorry," and that sounds very different to "I'm sorry," just by changing the way that we say the words. But of course, if they're written down, they don't sound any different. We can also use our facial expression. We can use eye contact. We can use the way that we stand, whether we're leaning forward to someone, standing back. We can use our hands. We can shrug our shoulders. All of these non-verbal forms of communication enhance the message and are part of that encoding process, which the receiver then has to decode. They see what you're doing, they hear what you're saying, and they convert that back into the idea in their own head, which hopefully is not too dissimilar to the one that you wanted to communicate to them. And you will get feedback from them through their expression on their face, by comments they make, just by noises. Someone going, and you can infer from that that they are listening and thinking about what it is you're saying to them. And so the conversation cycle goes through that process of the idea, encoding, decoding the idea, and feedback. And we can continue going around that as many times as we need to ensure that the other person has fully understood what it is we want to say to them. And we're very good at doing this because we spend our whole lives learning how to do it. Once you remove that face-to-face element, we can lose an awful lot of the sophistication of the transmission of information. We are limited in terms of the codes that we can use and the effectiveness of the other person in decoding them, which is why it's useful to spend some time thinking about the process and how you can enhance your communication when you're having to use technology to help you. So, first of all, think about which is the best channel to use. An email is quite good for getting over a short piece of information. It's really not the right way to have a conversation. You just lose so much in the process of putting words onto a screen, and it's a very unsubtle mechanism. Equally, you're not going to use all the complexity of a teleconference if all you've got to do is to say to someone, yes, you'll meet them at a particular time. So, select the best channel for the message you want to send. Don't put off difficult conversations. If you're anxious about a conversation, if you're not really sure you want to have it, then instead of putting it off, really steel yourself to have it, because the longer you put it off, the worse it's going to be for you, the harder it's going to be when you have that conversation. Plan what you're going to say. Think ahead about what you're going to say. In a face-to-face conversation, we're frequently very discontinuous. We will start saying something, and then we'll jump back and say something else, and then jump forward to a third point. We'll revise what we've said. That process is quite normal. It doesn't work half as well when you're having to do it over the telephone, even when you're doing it by video conference. It certainly doesn't work with email. So think ahead about what you're going to say. Make notes if necessary to make sure you get all the points over. Check the other person is ready to receive your message. You can do it in face-to-face conversation very easily. You see someone, are they rushing to a meeting? You're not going to stop them. Are they looking harassed? You're not going to try and hold them up. But it's not so easy when you just telephone someone and you don't know what the situation is at the other end. So always check this is a good time to talk. If it's the first time you've done it, focus very much on asking, not telling. I mean, this is just good practice generally, but particularly if you're having to do it by phone or by teleconference. Check what they know, check what they're expecting from the conversation. Find out from them what it is they want to get from you as much as what you want to tell them. Listen actively. This is always good practice. It's just as important when we're in a face-to-face conversation, but it's even more true when we're doing it through technology. Active listening is about focusing on what the other person is saying, being alert, sensitive differences between different words, between different types of language that's being used, and not thinking about what it is you want to say while they're talking. Seek feedback. We've already seen that feedback is an important part of conversation. You're getting it all the time face to face. When you're doing it through technology, you need actively to do it. Even with a teleconference, people will tend to sit quietly rather than respond in the way they will face to face. So check that people have understood what you've said by asking questions. The worst thing to say is, do you understand that? No, ask specific questions so you can check they've got the exact detail. And finally, at the end of the meeting, summarize the points that were made and agree who is doing what. If something is supposed to happen at the end of this, then make sure everybody's clear what it is. There's always good practice points in any conversation, but now the more we're having to rely upon technology, the less able we are to meet people face to face, the more we have to make sure that we do the job as effectively as possible. So good luck to you, and I hope you find this useful.